Everyone, good evening, good afternoon, good morning from wherever you're joining. Yeah, it's early morning here in Canada. It's 3 a.m. almost. I just wanted to wish Happy New Year, everyone, from on behalf of the SAIMA Group. Welcome to the session nine of SAIMA Group. As we know, today's topic is how to study and how to run an architecture study group. So before we start, just wanted to, since we're joining from various part of the world, we want to be doing something else before this session. So just to bring the attention of everyone to the session, I would request everyone to just close your eyes for just 60 seconds and breathe deeply, so that you can bring your attention to the session. Okay. Thank you, everyone. And thank you for joining the session. So to start with, just want to share this quote. I hope once in a while, every one of us who's on this journey to become an architect, or already an architect somewhere in their discipline, as a solution architect or CTA, would have faced a situation where you would come across situations like this. And even Steve Jobs has quoted that we don't hire smart people and tell them what to do. We hire smart people to tell us what to do. So hope everyone can relate to this. Okay. So just want to share who are the leaders behind this group. Again, you see three faces here: Neha Nagori, Meera Nair, and Lilith. These are the leaders of SAIMA Group. Again, the SAIMA is an acronym for Salesforce Architect in Making, which was started last year. And the pillars are Huyan and Gaurav Kitapar also. They have been strong pillars for this group, and they started this group last year, and now it's been led by these three people. And again, it's a great effort to come forward and start a group like this, because there was no dedicated community group which was focused on architecture, Salesforce architecture, and Salesforce architects are providing content which is really focused on how to prepare for this journey, which is a very cumbersome, and again, it takes a lot of effort. So again, yeah, great. Just want to thank them. Moving on. So here are the speakers for the day today. We have Lilith, we have Georgii, we have Kid Jansen, we have Sergey, who are going to share with us about the two topics which we have. First, we're going to have Lilith sharing how to start a study group, and then the second topic for the day. So I'm the host for the session. And what we want to achieve in this session is we want to support each other for preparing for this architect journey. Again, yeah, when we start this journey, we never know how difficult it is, and we are just wandering here and there, trying to find resources. Definitely, we have Salesforce resources available for us, but then we are looking for help around, and that is what the intention for this group is, to support each other, because it's very, very critical. Then and a lot of people have already become architects, so they know how the journey has been. So they have come. This group has brought together all the best speakers so that they can share what they have with the community, and when we can learn along the way. Also, just want to share that this group is not affiliated. We are not affiliated with Salesforce in any way. This is all the content which is shared, which is personal. So yeah. So some housekeeping rules. Please mute yourself and please ask the questions on the chat. Again, if you feel that there's something which is said and you know better, please share with us. We are not perfect. And if you want to be a host or you want to present something in our next sessions, please reach out to us. Okay, so I will hand over to Lilith. She's going to start with the session with how to study. Okay, Lilith, I'll hand over to you.
Great, thank you. So I tried to share my screen. Can you see it?
Yeah, we can see.
Okay, great. And yeah, I'll dive in. So maybe as we're, of course, in the Salesforce ecosystem, let me start with a forward-looking statement. So these opinions on how to study is all based on my experience. And of course, you have to find really your own way. So what my intention is to just share how I study, how I evolved through my journey in Salesforce with the credentials, you know, what kind of became my path there. Hopefully it's inspiring. But yeah, everyone has their own way of studying. So just don't try to fit into a template that doesn't fit your for you. Just create your own way. But maybe you can steal some ideas here and there. So that's what I hope to provide. So my certification journey, it's been already quite a bit. It started in 2017. So then I was introduced into Trailhead, and it was love at first sight. It was just so amazing. I hadn't seen a platform with so much content, which also allowed you to really get your own environment to play around with and really do hands-on, get those hands-on, you know, validated. That was so amazing. And as you can see, I really, really fell in love with Salesforce after that. And I also, you know, got my courage together and figured, let's give it a whirl. Let's try the first certification. And I went for the admin one. And it was really, really fun diving into all that knowledge, you know, learning so much new things. So I just kept going. And where we are right now is preparing for my 20th, which I hope will be the technical architect one. But of course, we all know that one is slightly trickier than the ones I've conquered up until now. So maybe just minor background information. So I did have a life before Salesforce. And one of the things involved there was actually psycholinguistics. So I did an advanced master in that one. And what you see there is how does language processing work in your brain? And a lot of that is also how does learning work in your brain? And this has really become kind of like the foundation of, yeah, my way of learning is knowing how the biological processes underneath work has really helped me kind of hack the system, for me at least. And just to give you kind of an idea is the way that your brain works, you don't really have like this big text in your brain of all the knowledge that you have. You have these minor tags or keys in your brain, and you want to make sure that you can activate the right pattern in there to get the information that you need. And to build that kind of structure, the way I see it is first you have to get an understanding of the content you're trying to learn. Next, really break it down into smaller pieces and be able to associate them. So maybe you already know something and you can build on that, and you can link your new knowledge to existing knowledge, which will make it easier to reproduce and really activate this knowledge. And then, of course, the final step where we all hope to get is once you learn something new, you don't want to just, you know, yay, I have new theoretical knowledge that maybe will be nice at a dinner party, but you want to be able to apply this. And that is then, of course, not only being able to read something, understand it, be able to identify the right answer, but really use it when you're solutioning. And that is kind of like the background there that I wanted to provide, which forms the basis of how I study. So diving into my steps that I take when studying. first, I want to get all the materials that I think are going to be useful. So yeah, I think it makes sense to say that the first step is always going to be the study guide, because there you can see what are the topics, how important are those, and which resources does Salesforce think I should check, which usually they have this kind of cool trail mix, which is a combination of Trailhead content and Salesforce documentation. So that is always my first stop. But it doesn't usually contain all the Trailhead content that can be out there for a certain topic. So I just browse Trailhead, type in keywords that I think could be interesting, and just go through all the documentation, all the modules, all the projects, everything I can find. So the first thing I do is I get this big list of things that I want to read or view, because that is the next step. So we all know Salesforce documentation is really cool. It has a lot of information, but it's also a bit daunting. It's pages and pages of instructions, clarifications, and sometimes a bit ambiguous phrasing that you don't know, okay, am I interpreting this correctly? And that's where I really like to go to community content, because there's so many motivated people who have gone through this, asked the same questions as I have, and written down their research, which is just so useful. Maybe a side note, I haven't found such a close-knit and really helpful and eager community as I found for Salesforce. There's so many people who know so much and are so willing to share, and that is just really, really amazing. So usually when you have a question about something, for example, these bindings, how do they work? Yeah, there's likely a very good blog for that, written by someone who's very interested. So I provided the bindings example. So one of the resources I went to a lot when I was preparing for Einstein Analytics, for example, was Ricky Hofgaard, because she really broke down some quite complex and not that intuitive content into just very easy readable material, such great resources. So definitely check those out. And then I just included a screenshot so you can see just this is the journey that I take. I was trying to go for the Pardot specialist first in the summer. And after I completed that one, I dove into Einstein. You can really see it in the progression of the badges that I did. So that is how I tackled that part. But I also create a reference, because it's really nice diving into all this information, digesting it. But in the end, you have to kind of discern for yourself what is main information, what is something that is important for you to know, and take notes on those things, because there's so much to digest. You just don't want to forget something. So I usually use a Google Doc and put all the notes that I have there, and also again associate them with each other. If I saw something and it comes back a bit later, I make sure it's all included here. Then this is one of my favorite steps. I love to plan things, and setting a goal for me makes it very concrete. It makes me really motivated to go for it. So after I set a goal, I would like to go for this credential at this or that time, I will set up planning. But I also think it's very important that you find a balance between it being realistic yet challenging to yourself, because if you set something way in the future, then your motivation to do something will likely not be that great, because it's kind of watering down. So do challenge yourself, but also make sure that you can have an off day. That's completely fine. In the planning, I usually kind of fool myself. So I will have this planning and I will try to get like one day ahead of my schedule, so that if there's one day that I really have a crappy day and I don't want to do anything except maybe Netflix or play games on Steam, then that's fine. I think especially in these kind of weird times, it's completely okay to just say today is not one of the study days. Today I just need to have time for me, be kind to myself, and I'll figure it out. I'll replan, because that's an important part as well. Don't stick to your plan like it's like it's set in stone. Just make sure that it works. If at some point you feel, okay, I have to reschedule some things, that's completely fine. Just, find structure in the chaos. That's what a plan is for me. Biggest step is reading and just doing. So you have this long list of materials, trailhead, documents, videos. Now just go through them. It's maybe not the most interesting step, or it's maybe a bit, yeah, the longest one, but it's just, you have to go through it. You really have to just get your hands on the materials, make sure that you gain this understanding. And what I usually do is, if I read something and it's really confusing, then I try to do it hands-on to just, yeah, get rid of that confusion. So yeah, try to find as much materials as you can, as are interesting to you. Take notes while you're doing them, gain understanding. In case of confusion, sometimes it's just best to do it hands-on. Trailhead, you know, with the playgrounds, you can have access to a lot of products, but in some cases, some things are not that easy to do yourself. You usually have a good video which walks you through it as well. So there's so much out there, and I try to read as much as I can in preparation of a certification. And then the final step is going through your notes, testing your knowledge, identifying which elements, which parts, concepts you might not be really grasping that well, and you know, going again through the documentation or just trying it hands-on to fix that gap. Now, this might be a bit controversial, but the way that I test my knowledge is I do take a look at Quizlets and questions that people post online. But the most important thing there is, don't use this as, you know, your study material. Don't just study the questions. You're only fooling yourself if you do. This is, for me, kind of like a good idea to see, do I understand it? Do I understand this concept? And that's how I use them, because learning the questions itself is, yeah, you're only fooling yourself, plus likely they might not be even completely correct. So there's really no point to it. So just use them to kind of test where you have gaps and fill those gaps. And then in one of the first courses I had on neurolinguistics, there was this really cool metaphor being used on how you study. So it is walking through snow. The first time you're walking through snow, it takes a lot of effort. You know, every time you have to really plow through it, and every step is quite a bit of effort because there's so much snow and you're the first person treading through it, right? But then if you have to go back, it's way easier because you already created kind of a path. And the more times you walk through the same path, the easier it gets. And that's also how you learn. So the first time you have to try and remember something, it's just a lot of things to remember. The second time, you already took a few steps, so a few concepts are already kind of in your head. So you only have to connect a few more dots. And this becomes easier until it's just a quick and smooth line. And that is how I really do this. I usually take about a week before the exam to just read, test, make sure I fix anything that I don't know that well. And up until now, this has really worked for me up until now, because now I'm trying for the journey for CTA, and it's different. I added a few more steps on how I think you need to complement the previous steps with some additional ones if you want to go for the CTA, because in my experience going for all the other credentials, it was quite an individual path I took. It was a very comfortable one where I could just sit at home and, you know, get all cozy behind my computer, read a bunch of stuff, try a bunch of stuff, just on my own schedule or whatever. But for CTA, that's not how it works. You have to really do it together. So join the community. There's so many good content out there. I think yesterday was a great example with Cactus Force, just of how much amazing content is there and how much people are willing to share. And we don't even have to go far. We have Johan in this call who is eager to share you know, what his study materials were, and that's just amazing. So really join the community. There's so much great stuff there. And then of course, join or start a study group, because in the end, it's really helpful to have like-minded people who are also going for this journey, also trying this, and you can bounce ideas of each other. If you saw, for example, a mock review board somewhere, then maybe you can digest it afterwards. What do you think went well? What do you think can go better? and diving into topics together, asking each other questions and finding again your gaps. With the other credentials, you have this kind of well-rounded idea of what is the content here, but for CTA it's just so broad that is really helpful. And you have to know it at such a deeper level. It's really helpful to have a group where you can share this knowledge and prepare and really digest everything. And then of course, practice, practice, practice. It's going back into the snow metaphor. Yeah, the first time it will not be easy. You'll spend way too much time on everything. Your Q&A session will consist of a lot of I don't know that one yet, but that's okay. You know, the next time will be better, and they will ask you questions, they will challenge you, and you will see, okay, this I didn't know. And usually in the mock reviews where I've been, you have all these knowledgeable people, and they will walk you through it. So maybe you made a mistake, but then that's okay. Afterwards in the feedback, they will take their time and really tell you that's what you did wrong, and will really help you, because the next time you try, it will be better. And then a piece of advice I got from Johan was take all the help you can get. And I would even add on to it, just not only take all the help, but ask for all the help. As I mentioned, people are really eager in this community to help each other. But of course, we're all busy people. So, you know, don't wait for people to offer, just reach out, because usually they'll be eager to help you with whatever they can. So definitely do that. And then the most, you know, daunting one is actually challenging yourself, not just from your technical knowledge, which definitely will be challenged very frequently, but what I've heard a lot of times already, and I completely agree with, is that for the review board, it goes beyond the technical knowledge. You really need the soft skills as well. And that is very difficult to develop on your own. You have to get out there, you have to practice, you have to maybe say, okay, fine, I'll be speaker on a SAIMA session, and be very, very nervous the entire week about having to just talk about something, even if it's something that's, you know, very well. Just challenge yourself, because there again, you will get feedback afterwards. You'll see, okay, this I could have done better. And most importantly there, it's never as scary as you make it out to be. In your head, you're like, oh, it's going to be so scary. All these people will be doubting me and I'll be just talking about nonsense, but it's okay. This community is super kind, super friendly. We're all here to learn, and we're all okay with making mistakes, because that's how you learn. So challenge yourself. It's probably one of the safest environments. The Salesforce community is probably one of the safest environments to really put yourself out there. So don't be afraid. And then I'd like to, end with these two visuals. So if we're looking at the CTA and we're comparing to the other credentials, so the other credentials, I was very much in my comfort zone. I needed to know the knowledge, and then someone just gave me a scenario and said, these are the options, these are possible solutions. Which one do you think is best? That's super, super luxury situation to be in, because you just have to identify what is right. However, for the CTA, you don't have this luxury. You really have to be the one who says, okay, based on this information, that is what I suggest. And there is also not such a thing as the right answer. It all comes down to the justification, the discussion you have afterwards, and why the arguments you bring to why you did what you did. So definitely it's completely outside your comfort zone. You'll have to present, you'll have to put yourself out there, but it is really where the magic happens. And I think that's also why a lot of people who are on the journey are saying that they're growing so much and they have evolved so much, is because they're challenging themselves. They're really going out of the comfort zone. So that's the first part. And then of course, it's really a joint effort. You really have to do it together with other people, and you will get help from a lot of different people. You know, you see so many good materials constantly on how are good approaches to studying, study groups, you know, how should you tackle this or that integration? What is the important thing to know when it comes to identity sharing? There's really great content out there, and always people eager to share their experiences and their knowledge. So yeah, it's daunting, but you're not alone. And that's the note I want to end on. So thank you so much for listening to me. If you have any questions, we can discuss them after the second session, and very eager to dive into the second session actually. So Yajesh, I'll stop sharing, and thank you guys.
Thank you, Lilith. Thank you so much. That was really, really enlightening, and they were like the right 10 steps for us. Definitely, it's helpful. We have some questions, but we'll ask you in the end. We will move on to the second topic. Again, yeah, this is very good topic again, guys. How to run a CTA study group, very important. Even I have this question from a long time. Because I wanted to prepare for the new certification B2C. I was wondering how I can work along with a group and study for this. So we have, again, we have 3 speakers for the session: Georgii, Sergey, and Jansen. Hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Please forgive me. I'll hand over the mic to you guys. Please go ahead.
Can you make me the presenter, JS?
Yes, sure. You have the presentation, right? Okay. Are you able to share?
Yeah, I have to share screen mode now.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. Pull back a little. Okay, so we're here to talk to you today about how to run a Salesforce architecture study group. Yeah, so like you already said, we're Sergey, Georgii, and Kit. I'm a 20 times certified architect at Capgemini. Sergey works at Wake as a technical architect, and Georgii at Salesforce. We are presenting this as our own opinions. This is not our opinion of Salesforce or that of Capgemini or Wake, so yeah, keep that in mind. It's really the way we run this group, and yeah, we're completely independent of our employers. These are a couple of pictures from before the COVID pandemic hit us. So before COVID, we used to meet up in person, and we used to yeah, go past all the Salesforce partners in the Netherlands. So we try to arrange location for a meetup, and then we had usually after work, so on the Friday evenings mostly, we had dinner, and then we started with a mock review board, and then sometimes a short session afterwards. This picture over here was from a special session we did on a Saturday, which was a full day presentation workshop, where we had a presentation coach and a theater coach that's helped us improve our presentation skills. And this year was also a cool meetup. Wasn't with our group, but with the developer user group. But we co-organized it, and we had I think 6 or 7 CTAs discuss their experiences in their path towards CTA from I think all over the world actually. We had in the US and Israel, various places over Europe, 2 on site. So it was a really cool session. Here we see a meetup with Carl Brundage from the US in the background. And here Jakob back at NextView. So this was all before the pandemic hit us. So why we started? This really started out back in 2018. I think it was around May. And the developer user group organized a meetup in the Netherlands, where with 4 CTAs talking about their path towards CTA. I just my prereqs around that time. So I had system architect and application architect. And after this meetup, I thought, yeah, okay, I have my prereqs. Now what? Back in 2018, there were a few SIs that had some internal programs. I know Accenture had something. Capgemini also had something, but there weren't really mature programs out there yet, and definitely not something that's that's public, that's available to everyone, regardless of where you work. I actually just checked on LinkedIn, and Sebastian Wagner started with Flow Republic about that time, but I didn't know it at the time yet. So there was really very little out there to prepare yourself for the review boards once you had your prereqs. And there was also very little focus from the ecosystem as a whole on the top 1%, so to say. There were tons of user groups, study groups for admins, consultants, developers, but many of them were open, available to everyone, had no entry criteria or prereqs or anything. So the level wasn't always that high, and of course to get to CTA, like Lilith already mentioned in her session, you really have to challenge yourself. You have to keep pushing yourself to get better, and get that, perfect that knowledge of Salesforce. And in order to do that, you really have to surround yourself by people who are in the same boat, who are also trying to get to CTA. And on top of that, also people have already done it, so actual CTAs. And that was quite a challenge back then. So we came up with the idea. I contacted Sergey, and then for quite some time we trying to find an audience, try to find people to start our group with. And it was mostly going through LinkedIn, Artisan Hub, using the verification page for certifications to check who will be potential candidates for that group within the Benelux region. And then contact all of them individually to ask them if they would be interested in joining our group. So that's how our group started. And in February 2019, we added Georgii to the organizing team. And then I think April 2019, we had our first meetup. And now I'm giving it over to Sergey to talk about the benefits for the members.
Yeah, so of course, we started the group, and then during the last couple of years, we were focusing on helping people. And this slide is really about what people getting out of participation. And there are a couple of important points here. Usually this CTA preparation, you do, you have multiple options, or you do it internally in your company if you have kind of environment supporting this CTA preparation, or you engage in external offerings where you can be sponsored by company or pay yourself and enroll in study group. But what we try to bring as additional value, to provide a platform where you can engage with a diverse group of people on different levels, on different with different subject matter expertise, and you get huge amount of opportunities to get feedback, which probably very difficult to find in your own space. So we just open the door and we extend all existing possibilities to prepare for CTA with our open platform. Second very interesting point is give opportunity to do self-evaluation, comparing yourself with other. Just by watching mock exam simulations, you can understand what are your gaps, what are your strengths, what you need to improve, how people do the different areas of CTA exam preparation and also presentation. So this diversity really gives you opportunity to see where I am, on what stage I'm staying, what will be next step, what I need to work, what I need to improve. Another interesting point is learning. Every single event we organize, you're learning something new, which is I find it really useful because of course the goal of our study group to reach CTA point, but for me personally is also to become better architect. So every single time you get some insights how people solving solutions in different ways, how they bring the industry knowledge in solving solutions. So yeah, I find this specific learning benefit for me personally very important. And the last one is learning building building network. So because we are a small intimate group, we don't run after numbers. We really focus on having a small dedicated focus group. Yeah, you meet a lot of people who are in the same boat, and you connect, you build the relationship, and it's interesting because if you go outside, many of us actually compete against each other, but this environment gives you a moment where you really collaborate and focus on improving each other's skills. Next slide, please, Kit. Yeah, and this is I want to cover a little bit basics. Yeah, what needs to be done. First one is really prerequisites to be application and system architect certified. We also ask every single member who wants to join our group about where are they in their preparation, what is the level of their motivation. We also build expectation about participation level. So we are saying, yeah, you should attend most of the events, be ready to be presenter, be ready to be judge. And this is a key because again, our group is small and we really need active participation. And of course, it's for new people, some of them don't know what to expect, so we also give a little bit time to orient themselves, so just to join meetings and be a little bit passive. But then very soon we ask, please step in out of your comfort zone and start present, start being judge. So this is important. So we really trying to build expectation from a member's participation from moment they join. Format, it was really fun to do it in person because it's difficult to replace virtual meetings with face-to-face. But then we didn't have choice and we opened a group for online. So we're using usually WebEx, and we ask people to switch cameras on specific moments during a meeting. Our sessions usually run around 3 hours. The fact that very senior people joining on Friday evening 3 hours session proves that they get benefit. And another basic point, we record our sessions. We don't make them public on purpose. We always ask a presenter if he or she wants to share. So we really respect our members' wish how they want to share recordings. Usually, it's personal choice, and sometimes people don't want to share, but we tell our members just approach and ask individually. Why recordings? Because recording this is kind of reflection that you can watch and see what you can improve. It's very useful. And next slide, over to you, Georgii.
Yeah, hey everyone, it's Georgii. So I'll talk a little bit more about the basics, and just to share something else. So these are the basics that we used for our study group. If you choose to form your own study group, you know, take this as you like. You can follow a similar pattern, follow your own pattern. It's up to you to decide. So we just wanted to share, when we were coming up with our group, you know, what were the ideas that we had in mind. So to expand a little bit more on that, in terms of the theme, we recommend coming up with some kind of theme behind your group. You know, when people think of the Benelux CTA study group, hopefully what comes to mind is, you know, a group of like-minded professionals that are on their CTA journey, planning to take the review board between 1 or 2 years, you know, seriously thinking about it and looking to grow from each other, to learn from each other's strengths and weaknesses and so on. So it helps to have a theme so that when people are thinking about whether they should join the group, you know, what are they going to get out of it? What kind of objective are the members going for? And so if everyone has kind of the same objective, it helps you all grow from each other. Another question that might come up is, you know, Salesforce has these user groups. I'm sure you've attended some user group sessions. Why not have this CTA study group as a official Salesforce user group? So the reason for that is today there is no official, you know, architect or architecture user group as of now. And with user groups, with official Salesforce user groups, there are some specific requirements around, you know, what you can do, how the sessions work, who needs to be included, and so on. Because, you know, these don't exist, and because we had a few special prerequisites for a group where to join the group you need to have all of the system architect and application architect certs. Our group is like formally closed, so it's not open to the public. You need to be invited and join the group. Because of these reasons, you know, that's why we're not an official user group. So just keep that in mind. One other point is, you know, the point of the group is to pass CTA, basically, you know, become a good architect, get the credential, and then what happens? Do you move on? Do you stay with a group? What happens? So we do have a few members that have passed CTA since we started the group, including 1 or 2 people that are on this call. And you know, from what we've seen so far, the people that have joined the group, you know, passing CTA may or may not have been because of the group. But the people that have been in the group, I think it was useful for them. Maybe they got some benefit out of it. And those people generally stay with the group, stay on as judges, give some additional presentations, help support the members. So we hope that the members that, you know, have been a part of the group have found it useful, and after passing CTA will stay on and help others that help them on their journey to CTA. Can we do the next slide? All right, and on to logistics. Okay, so in terms of logistics, you need to think about, you know, once you decide what kind of group do you want a big group? Do you want a small group? Will it just be you and 1 or 2 other people? If you want a smaller group or bigger group, you'll need to find some members. So the members could just be a colleague that you've worked with, someone that you know personally, or it could be a more open group where you need to go out and find members that you may or may not know today. So once we decided that our group should be people that are going for the review board within 1 or 2 years, as Kid mentioned, we looked at Artisan Hub, we looked on LinkedIn, we looked at a bunch of different places and tried to find people that we thought might be in our target group of people going for the review board within 1 or 2 years. Then once we found a group, we came up with the list and we started reaching out to everyone one-on-one to say, hey, we're planning on doing this group. Do you want to join? Here's, you know, here's the theme of it. Here are the requirements and so on. And then we found a core group of people. So once we had a core group, I think we started, our first meeting was probably 15 people or so, and maybe we had 20 people or so total at that point. We started posting, we started doing posts on social media, so like LinkedIn, Twitter, just to say, hey, we did this group, you know, this person presented, we learned about this. And we just posted this as a way of saying, you know, hey, we're doing something cool and potentially attracting new members. And we saw over time, our posts were getting more and more views and likes and so on. And that actually worked as a good channel of attracting people. Because you know, through the ways that we tried to find people, that wasn't everyone that's going on the CTA journey. There are a bunch of people that we just don't have connections with, and social media was a good way of having those people be able to find us and, you know, be able to get more group members organically. This was also a really good mechanism of finding speakers and judges. We did have a lot of, you know, celebrity CTAs or other folks in the community that came to present on a specific topic or came as a judge or so on. So this is just a really good, low effort and good way of attracting attention to the group. And finally, on communication, you know, it's important to be able to communicate with everyone, to tell people when the events are, to reach out to people individually if they drop out of the group or if there's some issue or whatever. So just make sure that you have a good communication channel that everyone's aware of and is accessible to everyone. So Sergey, do you want to take the next one?
Yeah. Just to extend Georgii part, the fact that you are a group of people allows you to approach different people in community and also in Salesforce. So it means that it's much easier to contact somebody and ask, please come to our study group, share a specific subject. And this is one of the big advantages, because of course you can approach yourself, but you have, I would say 99% probability that people will say yes if you approach as a study group and you explain what you are doing, and then you just find the opportunity to bring any knowledgeable people to the group. In this slide, I just want to mention that we also trying to innovate and going beyond of what you will face on a regular review board. So in the beginning, we started with format when we had 2 judges. And then one of our members said, well, yeah, why don't you increase the number of judges? And then we said, oh, yeah, let's try next Friday. And nowadays we bring 5 judges. It makes much more interesting for both presenters and judges. These dynamics, when you're in judging group, it's another way how you learn on architecture. And then another point that we always ask presenter how far they ready to defend their solution. And the last couple of events we had instead of 45 Q&A session that you face in real review board, we have up to hours, sometimes longer. Till the moment nobody has questions anymore. And another item that we really try to help and be helpful for our members to see and where they going to do a review board, and try to help them, meaning giving a little bit more attention, asking if they want to present extra mock exam, basically really focusing that they get help and a value from getting extra feedback, help, advice before they attempt real review board. I think next slide it's going to Kid.
Yeah. So to add on your first bullet, the weird thing is that when we switched from 2 to 5 judges, it actually became easier to find judges. And I think the reason for that is because there are 5, the threshold is much lower. You always have a few good questions, but it might be quite an effort to judge the whole review board if you're only just one of 2 judges. So back when we did the in-person review boards, we assigned the judges, or we asked them, and then the 2 judges would pretty much prepare the review board as if they were presenting themselves, which was also for them quite a lot of work, of course. But now with 5 judges, it requires far less preparation as a judge, and you can just add on to each other and also use each other as a springboard. So sometimes one judge has a question, and then the other judge is reminded because of that of another question, and then they help each other to keep going. And like Sergey mentioned, we sometimes have Q&As of up to 2 hours, just because they can keep on going, and it provides very valuable feedback to the presenter.
Yeah. Also, I think important to mention that level of people. So we have members who recently joined the group that are a little bit shy, and being in a group of more senior judges give you a little bit more confidence. And this is how also maturity of this membership in this group growing. So you start, you orientate yourself, and then depends on your pace. You can just run very fast. So think about our group as a platform to give you extra help, to speed up you, to give you different perspectives from people in the same boat. Yeah. So we really enjoy it. Yeah.
Some of the challenges we faced over the last 2 years are mostly with regard to participation, especially when it was in person. Like we mentioned, it was the Benelux architect study group. So we have people traveling sometimes for over 2 hours. And you have to remember that's after work. So the whole week of work, it's Friday, you leave a bit early, drive 2 hours, have a 3-hour meetup, and then drive back 2 hours. So you can see it was a lot of commitments back then for many people. So participation back then was an issue, and we started out quite small. We only had around 20 people, and for most meetups we were happy if we had 10 or 12 people there. That has gone quite a bit better since we opened up our doors with the virtual meetups. So now it no longer requires you to be in the Benelux. We have people from all over Europe, a few in the US, a few in Asia. So it's really grown. But still, we have some people that over time reduce their participation, or no longer join at all. But luckily, we also have quite a few new people who are very active. So there's rollover, but it will be a challenge to keep your group going. And we have at a few points in the past, especially I think end of 2019, where it was a challenge sometimes to get a group going and to have a meetup in person, find a location, find a food sponsor for the dinner, get everybody there. So there will be a challenge if you start your own group to not only find people who are committed at the start, but also to keep them committed and keep them participating actively during the sessions and attend pretty much all sessions. Then logistics, like we said, before COVID hit us, we did pretty much all meetups on site. So we alternated between various sales partners in the Netherlands, but we also always had to ask them, of course, where they want to host, but also sponsor the dinner. So it was a bit of a challenge sometimes. And now logistics are mostly the getting the whole setup for presenting right. But everybody's used to working with Teams, WebEx, Zoom. So that has become a lot easier now. But it used to be quite a challenge. And if at some point we return to in-person meetups as well, I think we'll keep the virtual meetups because we see it's very successful. But maybe we also go back to at least a few in-person sessions at some point. Then that will return again. So there's a lot of benefit in meeting in person. It's also a lot of fun. You have dinner, have a few beers, do the presentation, a few more beers. It's it's a nice way to catch up with your peers and discuss what you're running into. We also discuss fun stuff, very low key. So there's a lot of benefits there, but you can have some logistical issues and challenge there. I discussed the last point basically. So yeah, we switched to virtual and increased our reach, made it easier for everyone to join, basically, both local and remote. But the downside is that it's become a little less intimate. There's a little less direct contact, and especially when presenting, all the faces become really small. So you have less interaction with your peers than you would have when doing in person. And now over to Georgii.
All right, so some final words before we move on to Q&A. Maybe a few final recommendations. I think what helped us is finding our niche. So, there are a decent amount of study groups out there. What sets yours apart? Or as a member, why should I join your group versus another group? So what worked well for us is our target audience was people that are doing the review board within 1 or 2 years. And physically, we were all in the Netherlands when we first started, or the Benelux region. So it was an opportunity to meet in person, simulate the real review board experience as much as possible. If you're looking to start your own group, maybe think about what other things could set your group apart. It could be similar to us, location, maybe it's language. I don't know if you're French speaking or something like that. Maybe having a non-English language could help. It could be something like product specialization. Maybe you have a bunch of marketing cloud people or velocity or whatever that you want to have people focused on a specific product. It could be an industry focus. It could be within your own company. Maybe your company doesn't have a study group. That could be a good place to start as well. Another tip is in terms of leadership, while you can do this as a one-person army, we strongly recommend that you find 1, 2, or maybe a few partners to help you in terms of organization, because it is a lot more work than you think to organize a group, find people, get people to join, reach out to people when they stop joining, all of this logistics, it ends up eating a lot of bandwidth, so don't underestimate it. And finally, probably the most important point is have fun. And this goes back to the point on networking, where the people that join your study group are your network, will be your network, and these will be your future colleagues, clients, partners, even friends. Just a special shout out to Sergey. Sergey was the one that inspired me this year to start the Moscow user group. So, you never know what joining a study group could end up doing. This could be your path to your next job, your next engagement, you never know. So really don't underestimate this point of it.
I have to add my own shout out here because Sergey and Georgii have been the reason I started the SAIMA group back in, I think, April, something like that. I had a short call with the two of you and asked you, should I do it and how can I do it and what are your tips and stuff like that. And thank you very much. The SAIMA group wouldn't exist without the two of you.
Oh, this is a new tool for us. Yeah, cool. Congratulations. Yeah, there is besides focus of on CTA, there are a lot of positive side effects. Yeah, it's also this concept which is very strong in Salesforce community of sharing and helping each other that we also embrace in I think in our group and in SAIMA. So yeah, we are really happy that people get extra ideas beyond the focus of our initiative.
And maybe before we move on to Q&A, do you want to just say a few words, Kate and Sergey, about what joining or leading the group did for you personally? I can start. So I think for me, the benefit was I really wanted to get involved in the community, but I didn't really know how. For whatever reason, user groups weren't, I don't know, jiving with me or whatever. But when Sergey and Kid reached out and said, hey, do you want to organize this group? We're looking to start the CTA group. I was like, okay, great. I kind of want to take some kind of leadership role. This is something that I'm really interested in because I want to do CTA personally, and I think it would be a good way to build a network and so on. So it was a really good way for me to get involved in the community that I think, had it not been for this group, I don't know if that would have happened. And then kind of on that same theme, I ended up starting the Moscow Salesforce user group basically because of this. So, for me, it was hugely beneficial, aside from, of course, the benefits of, building a network, preparing for CTA, meeting people and so on. just kind of the benefits that I really didn't expect coming were that leadership and community involvement for me. Maybe Sergey, do you want to share a few words from your side?
Yeah, I think for me the biggest personal benefit, meeting and knowing a little bit better a lot of great people, and so network element, and just seeing the paths of other people doing, yeah. So it's environment that inspire and motivates and give energy for me. I came to this idea from years of doing Salesforce community work in Netherlands. So I did a lot of helping beginners, and then it was very interesting to see how we can shape something for people on advanced level, that it will be beneficial. And I think we are successful. Of course, we still have areas where we can do better and bring more value. So yeah, I really feel that it's the time spent on organizing all of this was super valuable, and I'm happy, yeah, that we have a good, great team doing this. And also, even when Georgii moves around the world, he's still attached. So yeah. Kid, over to you.
Yeah, you already mentioned a couple of good points. For me, one of the nicest benefits is quite obvious, but it's the feedback you're getting. We have a very diverse group. We have people working at end clients, as architects, as SIs, ISVs, all over Salesforce, of course. So we have people from every part of the Salesforce ecosystem. So you get very diverse feedback, very diverse backgrounds, different points of views. So that's very valuable, both directly for your preparation for CTA, but also in general in your career within the Salesforce ecosystem, and also your network in the Salesforce ecosystem. Oh crap! So that's really beneficial, really nice. Also, it's nice to give back. So I really like this opportunity to be part of the ecosystem, be part of the community, and give back. But like I mentioned, what I was missing when I came up with this idea was something that focused more on the top end of this ecosystem. There were already so many groups out there that everyone could join, and it was really helpful, really nice especially if you're entry level and also growing towards senior. But at some point when you really want to go for CTA, the level just wasn't high enough. You still learn quite a lot, but it sometimes lacks the depth, lacks the focus, and you're not all in the same boat. Everybody's at a different level. So that's when I came up with this idea and teamed up with Sergey and Georgii to form this group and really get a focus group of people that are all in the same boat, all want to, also are striving for the same goal, and are committed to go that extra mile and to keep going. And that's really nice to see, and that's what I think I like most about this group. It's been going strong for 2 years now almost, and it keeps giving value to everyone within the group. And of course they have fun, especially back when we did the in-person meetups. Was fun discussing everything going on at work, at home, fun stuff, over dinner with a few beers. Watch the review boards, maybe 1 or 2 other sessions, have a few more beers. It was good fun meeting up with people who are in exactly the same boat as you, do the same kind of work, same kind of challenges, and hear their perspectives, but also what they do outside of work, what they do for fun, what they do in their off time. So it's it's very interesting to hear and see, and what makes it very relatable. All the challenges you face, you hear other people are facing them as well. So it's I think those are some of the things that I found most helpful and most beneficial out of the group.
Maybe I can add something. Georgii and Sergey told me back then, if I should start the SAIMA group, it sharpens your leadership skills. Or in my case, I had 0. It's a good playing ground to get your feet wet a little bit with leadership. So I would say if somebody interviews me right now for a leadership role, which I don't apply, but anyway, I could tell I did this. I have some experience, and it definitely changed how I behave.
Yeah,
I learned a lot.
Definitely a benefit as well. And it's, especially when starting out, it's really challenging because at the start you have to take care of everything. And once you're going and you have momentum and you already have the group, and then people within the group also show initiative and help you organize meetups or maybe even organize it by themselves. So that takes off quite a bit of the load, but especially when you're starting out, it's everything. And then it's quite challenging, but that's also where you learn the most.
Finding a speaker for a group which had like 0 sessions so far or 1 was really challenging. I now can understand every salesperson. I got so many no's.
Yeah. But once you're going, once you get noticed, it's really about getting momentum. Like I mentioned, I teamed up with Sergey in, I think, May 2018. Georgii joined February 2019, and we had our first meetup in April 2019. So it gives you an idea of the timeline. Especially finding the audience back then was a challenge because there weren't that many groups out there. Not sure if we're the first, probably not, but we've had very senior people at Salesforce say that they thought we were at least the first. So it gives you an idea of what it looked like 2-3 years ago. It was quite a challenge to start it up, and and I think once you get momentum and visibility.
One of the things that really helped us is in our first session, we did kind of an intake session where we explained, okay, everyone, here's who we are, here's our plan for the group, here's our target audience, and so on. And I think through Sergey, your contact, we had one Salesforce CTA there, so that kind of gave our group some additional legitimacy. And then just posting on social media, showing how our group is going and so on, really helped us gain some momentum. So to Kid's point, it definitely got easier over time. But having some like special guest speakers or something that sets you apart for the first couple sessions really helps. Yeah. And to Lilith's point, leveraging your network, asking for help, that's definitely how you can make that happen.
Yeah.
And now we often even have that people are coming to us. And for instance, whenever Sebastian Wagner posts something on LinkedIn, he pretty much always tags us. So once you get familiar with big names in the ecosystem, it also starts working for you, and people are coming to you at some point, and that really helps. But something Georgii earlier mentioned, it helps to not do it alone. That definitely stays true no matter how long you're going, because we all have a really tough week at work from time to time. And if at that point you have to organize a meetup and it's there are some difficulties, that you really don't want to take care of that. And then it's really nice if you're with 2 or 3 people, so that someone else can take over, and it's the other way around the next time.
Yeah. Also, ecosystem around architecture topics grew up in recent year. So Salesforce introduced a lot of official trainings. This commercial offering became more mature, and then people who are attending all these resources, they still looking for extra opportunity to sharpen their presentation skills. So and study group like ours is an excellent additional way to prepare, because again we have diversity, we have rotation. It's extremely valuable, in my opinion, for people who are on CTA journey.
And the nice thing is that you don't have to do everything yourself. Like Sergey mentioned, the ecosystem is evolving, it's becoming more mature. But a lot of the new content, especially the content from Salesforce, is still quite expensive. But we often have had people, and still have, that have done such a course or program, and then share their findings with us. And sometimes it's just about the process, about the yeah, but superficial, like why you should join such a program or why you should do it. But quite often we also went in depth, where things they learned during those courses or programs or sessions were shared again directly within our group. So it really helps that you don't have to get approval from your employer to follow everything yourself and attend everything yourself. This group is also a great way to share all that knowledge, so that you don't have to do all of that yourself.
So should we do the Q&A? I see that there are quite a few questions in the chat. I can read them off and we can go through. So there's a question from TJ. What should be the ideal size of CTA study group? Maybe Sergey, do you want to take that one? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would distinguish between physical and virtual. So we started, I think it was small group, like 15 people. And then during first events, we had from 5 till 10 people, and it was excellent size for face-to-face. For virtual, I would say we like 20 people attending, 20, 25, this range to attend, but it doesn't mean that you cannot start with 5 people. The consistency and motivation is a key in this beginning point, starting point. So to have people who really want to attend and help you to shape this group. So yeah, start small. Don't grow too fast. This is my view on this, because you also want to,
core group.
Yeah, you also want to to connect to your initial group on a better level, so they can help you to promote and shape it. Next question, Georgii, are you managing Q&A?
Yeah, I'll do it. So there's a comment from Lilith. Senior or junior both can provide such useful feedback and input. They may have very different backgrounds and experiences from which you can learn. Johan mentioned he found it very useful. Don't forget to mention the WhatsApp group.
Maybe WhatsApp group. Yeah, WhatsApp group we use for coordination. And there is idea to move it to be in Telegram, and maybe also create a channel for kind of Q&A related to architecture, because main purpose we use WhatsApp coordinate events, and sometimes we put useful resources, but in my opinion we should separate it and have organizational channel and then Q&A channel. It's a very nice extension of after events, because sometimes you attend the event, you need to process information, then you can still drop a question or comment in WhatsApp group and continue your conversation in the offline channel. So we like to use it. And we also we have a success community group where we put presentation or recordings that were shared publicly for all members of the group. Next question.
Yeah. So next question from Sudhir. After someone completes app/syst architect certs and there is a time gap in between before the person actually goes for CTA prep, which should be the recommended approach? 1, recap both the branches first and then go for CTA prep. 2, jump on to mock scenarios, practice and recap along the way. Or 3, keep yourself associated with such groups to be with mainstream discussions until you finally make yourself ready for CTA. Maybe I can take that, share my thoughts on that. So I think this really is individual and depends person to person. What I found really useful, so the path that I took is I decided, okay, I want to do CTA. We started this study group together. We had a few sessions and I realized after some time, like, wow, I'm super underestimating how challenging this is. This isn't just another cert. This is a journey that will take at least 6 months, if not a year or 2. I also took CTA 601 and that reinforced it, realizing that you get a scenario, you need to figure out a template, you need to work through it. It's pretty challenging. And in parallel, there was a person from internally from our engineering team that reached out to me saying, hey, Georgii, I heard you're preparing for CTA. Do you want to be study partners? So I did kind of a few things at the same time. I joined this study group. I had an internal one-on-one study partner internally where we met every day. And that's the path that I took. But maybe for other people, it might be more useful for you to have a very structured study path where you put down kind of a mind map of hundreds of topics. You go through one topic every day, put your notes against it. You might have a super structured pattern like that. To Lilith's point about studying, maybe it works best for you to have a calendar, put your timeline on there, put every day exactly what you're trying to accomplish. So I think it's really individual. And what I would recommend is just try to go down each of these paths, see what works for you. If it doesn't work for you, just move on to something else. There's really no harm in joining groups saying, hey, this isn't right for me, isn't a good fit for me, and moving on to something else.
To add on that, also something Lilith mentions, put it into practice, apply your knowledge. Because CTA is a whole different beast entirely compared to the other certs. I did the application architect and system architect certs in no time, and thought they weren't actually that challenging. But then, like Georgii mentioned, when I started preparing for CTA, I realized it's a very different experience. It's very different. It's not just your knowledge about of Salesforce, but it's also your soft skills, your leadership skills, governance mindset, more of a project manager mindset in some ways. So it's a lot of knowledge you have to have, experience you have to have, and you also have to get that experience. And I've been at Capgemini for just over a year now. This is my first real architect role. I was already an architect, I think, back at Antiris, but back then I was mainly a technical consultant, and architect was maybe a quarter of my job. But now that I'm doing it full time, I'm learning so much more, and also now working with enterprise clients, it's a completely different experience. And I'm actually learning now that you really need that experience, and you really need to have that knowledge. And there's so many details outside of the in-depth Salesforce knowledge that you need to know, that it can't be just studying. You can't just study for a CTA all by yourself and pass a review board. Maybe some can, but I'd say you definitely need some architect experience, and also on other aspects of architecture, not just the in-depth knowledge about Salesforce.
I want to add to Sud here, and then maybe Lilith, I will give you opportunity to comment. Please go ahead.
Yes, sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but actually, I really like the point that Kid was making with regard to this architecture experience. And I think there are a lot of people that I've talked to kind of are in the situation that this is not really the opportunity they are having as their current role. There might be a developer or they might be a consultant. So maybe they, immediately have the opportunity to take on this architect role. But what I have found, and yesterday also something that Steve Simpson mentioned during Cactus Force was, while you're doing these preparations, this practice, these conversations that you're having, you're taking on this architect mindset, and you bring that actually to your job, and that will allow you to get these opportunities. I've become more and more an architect role because of the practice I've been doing on my side, and this is really reflecting in the decisions that I'm making, and also the meetings that people are pulling me in. I was very lucky to be able, I know Sergey is laughing because we were in the same meeting actually earlier this year, where we presented to C-level executives on data governance, something, no way that was going to happen if I hadn't done the preparation. I spent all my Christmas break preparing for this one meeting. So this is just, once you are on this journey and you acquire the practice and the knowledge, you can bring it back and you can create those opportunities for yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think I would have been able to get the role I currently have with just a prereq search. It's really the learning process that started after that. As okay, I should have the knowledge now, or at least most of it. Now start applying it and build on top of that and grow it, also not just in depth but also in breadth. that's where the real learning experience started, and that's where it also became valuable. Because it's one thing to know a lot about Salesforce, it's another thing to put it into practice. You have to convince the clients, you have to convince your colleagues. It's more than just knowing it. It's a different thing of doing it and convincing others that it should be done this way and why it should be done this way. And that's where the learning starts. And like you said, that's also where the opportunities start.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't hold yourself back there. If you really want to go that route, I think it's important to also go for that architect role. So I was really happy at Integris. I liked my role, but I wanted to go for architect, and that opportunity just wasn't there at that time. And I thought, well, there must be other companies out there that I would like. And I just started looking around, and now I have this amazing role. So those opportunities will become available, and just seize them.
Yeah, I wanted to comment on Sud here a question.
Sorry, Sergey, can I just add a small thing there? Because I see that a lot of times people contact me and say their boss doesn't give them the opportunity to do the architect thing. And coming back to Lily's example, let's say she was not invited to that meeting. What should she do? She should still prepare the presentation as she would be invited. This is what I did for like 2 or 3 years. I just pretended to be an architect in my company. Like I created the presentations and nobody asked me to on my free time. And then I sent it to my team lead and said, hey, you didn't ask me for it, but I did it anyways. And after a couple of months, I got invited to these meetings. So don't wait. Seize the opportunity. As Kit says, you have to seize the opportunity yourself.
Yeah, that's a great example, Johan. You have to be a little bit arrogant. You have to seize the opportunity yourself, and you have to speak up. If you just wait for someone to give you the opportunity, you'll probably never get it, or maybe 5 years, 10 years down the road. If you really want to make progress and also keep that knowledge fresh, keep on building on top of it and not forgetting things faster than you're learning them, then you really have to seize the opportunity yourself. Speak up, contact clients, contact your manager, contact your colleagues, do the work, go the extra mile, and then it will, at some point, it will start coming on itself.
Yeah, don't expect it to be don't expect it to be the first time. Like coming back to my example,
no, definitely not.
19 out of 20 times my team lead just ignored my email, at least. But the 20th time when I got pulled into this meeting, this is when the magic started to happen. Be like a sales guy. Accept a no. No, don't accept a no. Just keep on going.
Yeah. And probably by the 30th or 40th time you were leading them. So so at first it's really challenging to get that foot in the door, and then once you have it, it's really easy to start growing from there.
Yeah, stay friendly, stay professional, keep on going.
Yeah, let me bring us back to Sud here question, because I wanted to comment on it. So I think we didn't mention frequency of our study group meetings. It's usually every 2 weeks, sometimes every 3 weeks, sometimes can be also every week, once a week. And then your first point, recap both the branches. So basically think about that our study group meetings is like checkpoint for you. So you still have a lot of time to work yourself or with your study buddy to catch all other gaps. So our events is really giving you kind of reflection where you are, and then you will just see that your level is going up, and then you presenting, judging. So it's combination. In my opinion, the level, how you balance all these 3 points, really individual. Yeah. I think there is an interesting question from Johan. If we lose anything in virtual meetings, I think yes. I think some people in our study group. Of course, we try to engage and ask people to be active, but sometimes things changing. So we have example, one person, he married, and then it was not now in highest priority. So we have people who were active initially and then slow down, and then sometimes they're coming back again to be active. So yeah. Yes, we have people, and we have people who stopped, who are not interested anymore for some reason. In virtual meetings, yes, we also have people who attended face-to-face but not attending virtual. It's also happening. We try to ask, send message asking what is going on, why you're not coming back, how we can help you to come back, etc. So we try to also to engage people who are dropping to understand why, because group is small, it's still doable. So it's not like asking 100 people, it's like 5-10 people. So we try to approach and find out what's the reason, because for us it's important. We want to have this study group running and giving value to members in the end.
So we try to get. Oh, sorry.
Just really quick, I think one important point that I miss personally is that during the real meetings, afterwards we would have stick around for dinner, have beers, chat, whatever. And while we try and emulate that virtually, it's really just not the same. You miss those conversations of saying hey, I'm interested in applying for this job. What do you think? Or, hey, I'm working with this client. What do you think? You just miss all of those kind of informal after conversations that I think were super valuable. And you can kind of do it virtually, but it's just not the same, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's also the splitting up. When you meet up with, especially at some point, we even had 15 plus people in person meetups, and then you don't stay as one group afterwards. A few people leave because they have other plans or want to go home or whatever, and then maybe 10 people stay, and you get 2-3 smaller groups, and those are different every time, and that's where different types of conversations start. And if you stay virtual, or if you virtual meetup and you stay with the whole group, you just get different conversations. There's less small talk, so it's harder to keep the fun part in with the virtual meetups. That's definitely works better in person.
On to the other questions. TJ asked, how important is it to have CTAs in the group? So from my point of view, I think when we started the group, it was super valuable to have a CTA for the first couple sessions to, I don't know, give some additional legitimacy, to build some extra interest. I don't think it's absolutely required to have one or more be regular members, but I think it definitely helps. We have Johan and a few other folks that join most of our meetings, and I think that really helps to have someone that's gone through the review board. They know what it's like. They're able to give feedback and say, this is generally how it's done. This kind of thing doesn't happen, to give real experience. Is it really 100% necessary?
Like you mentioned the start. At the start, it was basically the calibration. We needed to calibrate our group to judging at the right level, because we were way too easy on ourselves at the start. That sounds about right. Yeah, that's probably good enough. And that doesn't work. It's the different thing about why CTA is so difficult is that it's really about everything you say being adequate. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it just has to be a viable solution that you can justify, that you can defend. But it's not like that you can score a 1 on one topic and maybe a 10 on another topic and 8 on another topic and still end up with a good mark. You cannot completely fail one topic. Everything has to be okay, and that's difficult because there's always a gap in your knowledge.
Yeah, I think one really cool thing that we've seen with our group is, since we've had people that were members that are now CTAs, you kind of get a sense of, hey, I was working with this person, we did mocks together, they were part of the group and they became a CTA. So a CTA isn't some kind of godlike position. It's actually reasonably attainable, and it's cool to see how that person will evolve throughout time and then how they are after CTA, and it just feels more attainable, more possible.
Especially now we see more recent CTAs, you get a much better grasp of what is asked from you. After the first one, it's still difficult. Maybe he was so much better, and then after you've seen a few become CTA, you get a much better idea of what is required from you and what is not required from you. At
Can
some
I-
points we were too strict, and at other points we were too lenient, too easy on ourselves. But we get a much better idea of where we need to stand, and that's still very valuable to have CTAs in our group regularly, but it's not a requirement anymore.
So can you summarize for us what did you learn from this experience having different CTAs and seeing them?
I think one of the most important things at the start was getting to a good format, because you have this scenario that's kind of RFP based, and you have to come up with a way to answer it. Back then in 2 hours, now in 3 hours. But you really have to come up with a structured way that works for you to make your architecture plus your presenting materials in those 2 hours, and convincingly present it as if you were presenting to C-level, because that's basically what you're doing. It's maybe not hostile, but it's a challenging situation, presenting your architecture to C-level completely offline, what you're simulating. So to get to a format that works sufficiently and well for you, that was quite a challenge at the start, and my first mock was terrible. But yeah, when I got the feedback from the CTAs, and they gave a couple of suggestions, and all of them gave suggestions. So we had a few CTAs involved early when we started the group, and they all gave their ideas and how they approached it. And the nice thing was that they were also from quite different disciplines. One was very young and in end clients. Another one had been an architect for many years in Oracle, I believe, and then switched over to Salesforce and went from 0 to CTA in Salesforce in just over 2 years. Very different kinds of CTAs, and getting all those perspectives from and getting all their approaches and their feedback was very helpful to get a good starting point, like what level is expected, but also how do you actually tackle it.
Yeah, and I think what I got was a lot of small things that add up to a big amount of knowledge. Like some of the tips we got are during the Q&A session, if you don't know, don't just talk for 1 minute and make up some stuff. Just say, sorry, I'll get back to you on that. That's it, leave it.
Yeah.
Or if you do know the answer, don't just go on and on. Answer very quickly. If you're talking more than 10, 15 seconds, it's probably too much detail.
Yeah.
Just all of these small tips add up to a lot of knowledge, and I think getting that from a CTA is the best way of accumulating that type.
And also of course the judging sheets are confidential, so we haven't seen any of them ever. But there were some architects who sort of reverse engineered them or came up with their own, and taught us about these grading processes where, like Georgii mentioned, if you really don't know the answer, don't go into it, just say you don't know it. But if you have a good thought process, it's also very valuable, and you still get some of the points for it if you share your thought process. So, okay, maybe I don't know a solution for this, but my first step would be to research the documentation, and if there's nothing out of the box available or something I can easily extend, I would look on the App Exchange for third-party solutions. And maybe as a last resort, I would look into building something myself. But just going through your thought process can also be very valuable, and not just stand there thinking, but actually walk them through your thought process. Keep speaking to it. So actually say what you are thinking, but keeping it really short. Only saying, my first step would be this, second step would be this, first step would be this, and then if nothing works, I probably build something myself or design something myself. And just saying something like that can still be very valuable, and still be considered a good answer, because, well, you're not expected, well, in some way you are, but you're not really expected to know every single detail about Salesforce. In real life, you also have some investigation, some spike every now and then, but just speak to it. Let them know what your approach would be. But like Georgii said, if you really don't know the answer, just say that and go on. Don't waste the time.
I suggest we a little bit speed up with the Q&A to finish at 11. Georgii, let's move to the next question.
Okay, so There's a comment from Michael about keeping the virtual sessions going. Sergey will buy, or Kid will buy beers for us. According to your
Go
own
on now.
experience, according to your own experience, what have been the biggest challenges so far? So I think we touched on challenges already. Was there anything you wanted to add, Kid or Sergey?
You know, what kind of challenge do we mean? Do we mean challenges regarding running the study group or regarding CTA prep?
I think it's study group, it's session about study.
Yeah, we touched upon those. The biggest challenges were hosting and sponsorship back when we were doing it on premise, on site, and now it's to some extent participation. But most of the challenges have gone away just by keeping going and keeping momentum. The tough part is the start, but once you get through that first half year and get visibility, not just from the receiving end, so not just from your audience, but also from the CTAs and the people that will be interesting presenters, then it really goes much easier, much smoother.
Yeah, I can give a quick comment on this. I think it's important, surround yourself by internal and external environment relevant for this CTA preparation. Yeah, I think this is very important because you can learn a lot, but you also need practicality of your knowledge. So, and this is also, you can do it internally in your company or externally by attending this type of mock reviews, because mock reviews is really a simulation of real business scenario. So I think this is kind of combined challenge to have this environment for you to apply what you learn.
All right, and next question. How did you plan your study topics? Did you schedule in advance all the topics and then mocks? So in the beginning, what we did is we had a Google Sheet going with every session, the date, we put down potential presenters, judges, and scenarios. And before doing all of this, we gathered all of the scenarios we could find. I think we had about 10 at the time. So we just scheduled one scenario per session, found presenters and judges, and then tried to cycle through the scenarios, because after enough sessions, you'll start running out of them.
Yeah, majority of our sessions still mock review, and we also driven, if we have opportunity to bring somebody to talk on specific subject, then we just say this opportunity in specific moment, and then we set up a special event. But I would say 90% of our events is mock review.
Yeah.
And next question, Velocity, do you expect to be asked, or should we include industry solutions in CTA review board, Velocity, or health? I'm assuming nonprofit starter pack or education cloud. So to my understanding, the kind of non-core, non-sales service cloud specialty clouds aren't part of the CTA today. They may be in the more distant future. But Johan, do you have anything else to add on that topic?
I would agree there, but add know how they work, what they can do, when you should support to choose them, what are the security models, how they can be integrated with Salesforce, when not to choose them. Maybe the data model, especially for, let's say, health, because the data models are great data models, I would say. Even if you don't say I use Health Cloud, it's good to know how the Health Cloud data model works, just as an exercise. So don't just ignore them.
Yeah,
this would be my, as the summary for all these questions. Do I need to know? Actually, yes, you're a CTA, kind of.
Yeah, I would agree with Johan, especially on data model, because all these industry solutions solving business problems, and how they solve it is if you can understand why they use specific object model. This is really good overall architecture knowledge, how to to practice with data modeling. So I would say maybe you will face on exam, but knowing how they deal with solving business problems is an extra practice to be better architect.
I think from all the questions I got over the last 4 months since I passed, is this part of the review board? I would say 99%, I would say yes. So every time you ask yourself, do I need to know this? Yes. Because you're a CTA after all.
Officially, everything that's GA is fair game. So generally available. So if it's not in pilot, beta, or whatever, if it's available, it's fair game. But yeah, the focus is still core platform.
All right. And next question, how do you usually study, structure your study time, and what parts of the day do you study? Is it always from your time, or do you get time from work business as well? This isn't quite focused on the study group itself, but maybe Sergey, do you want to give a 1-2 sentence answer?
Yeah, it's individual, families at time. So in our case, we do some practice in the morning, like for 1 hour. Yeah, you need to find the time. If you don't, it's kind of, if it's important, you do it every day. This is the concept. So where it will be, it's individual. I have like 2 kids, and then I try to do it very early in the morning, and try to stick to schedule, and sometimes it's challenging.
But it's like Lilith mentioned, you just need to try things out and find out what would be a good method, what works for you. And just try different approaches. I've studied at all times of day and all days in the week. I did exams at 5 in the morning. Just find out what works for you and challenge yourself, but don't be unrealistic and don't push yourself into a burnout.
And try to, like the kid, I agree, that be creative. I didn't know that about myself, but I'm really a morning person. I didn't know that, but I tried it for a few weeks and it works pretty well for me now. So don't just say I'm a night person. Just try morning.
I'm definitely a night person.
Before we miss it, I have a really important question for Lilith, and I would like to ask, how long do you take for one of the certs? I mean, I saw you did like 19 certs in 3 years. How many hours do you invest usually per certification?
Yeah, I would have to check. I have everything actually right now in a developer org, which I built to study or to plan my studying. So I can check there for you to give you the exact numbers. But usually I take about a month or 2 that I really dive into a cert, and then that's about the time frame, 2 months.
That's longer than I expected with your pace. You've been busy all the time, pretty much.
Yeah, well, it starts at 2 months, and then, as I say, I like to get ahead of my own schedule, just because that's my gamification part, right? So then I think I'm good, and usually I then after a month and a half I reschedule it to earlier.
So something like 40 to 100 hours per certification?
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. Yeah.
I'm more at the crazy end of the spectrum. I did most of my certs in very short spikes, very short peaks, and then did nothing for months on end. But I think most of them I spent between 15 and 30 hours.
That's really a steady. That's really a quick pace, actually, right? And did you do a lot of hands-on then for those, or were there the theoretical ones?
Yeah, for me the challenge was that at my first employer, I wasn't really allowed to do certs, or at least I did the first 2, so admin and app builder really fast, and then that was it. I didn't get any budget for certs, and at some point I was tired of that, and I just did 5 certs in 2 weekends, and then started applying for other jobs. But I already had quite a bit of experience there, and was a small partner. And the nice thing about a small partner when you start out is you get a lot of breadth. You do everything. You do admin tasks, you do consultant tasks, you do developer tasks, you do architect tasks. You touch every part of Salesforce, and it's a really good way to learn. So maybe the depth of knowledge is not that high at that point, but I had enough knowledge for Sales Cloud, for Service Cloud, for advanced admin, for those kind of certs, and I built on from there. But yeah, some of them only required like 2-3 hours because I pretty much had the experience, had the knowledge. I just need to fix a few gaps and maybe recalibrate a few points where I was behind or learned something the wrong way.
Yeah, and to be honest, there also, I think some products are just more elaborate than others. Um, if you want to learn CPQ, yeah, take a bit more time because it's really complex. The data model alone will blow your mind. On the other hand, for example, if you're looking at Pardot and you're just going for the specialist, which is the first one of the Pardot series, let's call it. Yeah, there's Pardot is a nice tool, but it's quite limited. Yeah, indeed, it's not a marketing cloud, so it really depends also on what you're diving into. Pardot didn't take me too much time. I sped up and I rescheduled that one rather quickly, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I must say the consultant is a lot tougher than a specialist for Pardot. I think at the Pardot specialist in 8 hours, but the consultant took me 2 or 3 weekends, I believe.
Yeah, I haven't tackled that one yet. It's somewhere on my bucket list, but after CTA.
Yeah.
I would suggest let's focus to try to answer the outstanding questions before we finish. Maybe I can summarize them. So there are questions from Rudolf, from Poonam about 601 important. I think it's. I think if you can do it, do it. It's really good training. Definitely. You have CTA coach. You have similar-minded students. It's a good thing to do. Yeah, really recommend it.
Next, and just to add to that really quick, I paid out of pocket for it. I would highly recommend it. And you know, could I go back and redo it and pay out of pocket? I absolutely would. So if you can do it, absolutely do it.
We also brought some members to our study group from this course because we did it face to face. You interact with people, and then they are really interested to join you. Rodolfo,
you just grow your network.
Yeah. Rodolfo asking about Flow Republic. I think it's very valuable. Yeah. Again, it's a good thing. How we are different. We just extend and a community platform. I personally like what Sebastian is doing. He was kind of innovator in this area. So a structured program. Yeah. If you can do it, yes. Answer yes. Go for it. Absolutely. Question about boss saying that it's too expensive review board. Yeah, you know, it's a strange reaction, but it also depends on your role in a company. Yeah, there is no simple advice. Yeah, here try to figure out how to convince. Probably sometimes it's an awareness session explaining what is it. Most of the consulting companies, it depends on level. Some of them really interested, some of them not mature enough to have CTA. So I don't know your situation, but this is kind of generic feedback.
For the companies that do care, it's very valuable, and they easily profit from that after just a few months by just hiring you out for higher rates once you get CTA.
Yeah. It's important to think how you link CTA, potential CTA achievement to environment where you are, because think about CTA exam. So if with right strategy, with right support, you can pass it. But of course, you want to apply your knowledge in reality. So, and this is important to have this link at your job. Because it's serious investment of your personal time, money, or your company or your money. So this is a type of factor you need to think about. I think we answered all questions.
Yep, we have answered almost all the questions. We are almost into our session, like the ending time for our session time. So I just have one last question, Lilith, and the whole team. Like, since you have been like, there are so many things to remember, right? Is there any technique you people have to like make a memory map? Like, how do you remember all those topics? Because when it's the D-Day, when you are presenting in front of the review board, and definitely you have a format for putting everything out first, the data model and all those things. But is there a kind of a technique you would try to remember all the things which you have prepared all over the years for this major exam?
Yeah, you know, my answer is based on also all these activities. Yeah, if you do 30, 40 practice mock exams, then you will kind of embed structure, and it will be seamless what you need to cover if you practice a lot. So in my opinion, it's really about practicing mock exams as a presenter and also as a judge as much as you can, and then this process what you need to cover seamless. And yeah, it's my view on this.
I completely agree. So if I can jump in there, indeed, I think your time is so limited when you're doing the review board. It's insane the amount of output you need to provide in that amount of time and how much you need to present. So you just have to really refine this process, and in refining it, you will really get in your head all these, you know, templates that you need to use and decision guides for yourself. Johan has a few in his cheat sheets as well on, for example, which license should I use, etc. And what are the data models? What do they look like? You just practice them so much that you really make sure that actually once it comes down to the review board, or even if it's a mock, that you just know what points to hit, like a checklist in your head almost.
I think you would like to just show our speaker slide for a second.
Okay. Sure. I'll just stop sharing. Yep. Georgii, you have permission to share if you want to.
Yes, let me pull it up. Yeah, just in case you guys have follow-up questions, comments, want to connect, here's how you can reach us. Let me present.
Yeah, you mean write our name and they find us on LinkedIn or Twitter?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm very easy to find. No one is named Kit.
Yeah. So yeah, just send us invite. We are very open, and if you're serious about joining our group, just approach one of us. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're also interested about, like, you know, I have this idea for forming a study group, can you share your thoughts or validate our opinions or whatever? Johan mentioned that, you know, when he was starting this group, he reached out to us. We would be more than happy to give our thoughts and opinions on whatever you have in mind. So please do reach out.
Thank you. Can I just share feedback as someone who joined recently this group? I think it can be valuable, really short. So I think I joined it a month ago, and 2 months ago, I finished my prep system and application architect. And I right now a solution architect in the company. And I didn't think about the CTA so serious because my personal opinion was, oh, it's overhyped, maybe later. But then I got a really good opportunity to be mentored by Georgii, and I got an invitation to this group. And since that, I see a really good improvement of my, not only architecture mental set, but also in my work duties. But with this great opportunity, there is a responsibility. I right now understand that you need to be cautious about your goals, because if you put anything on top of your CTA prep, like I want to prepare to this B2C solution architect, or I want to get a marketing cloud certification, this can break your study plan, and it can be demotivation. So you need to prioritize right your studying. If you do any extra studying, you want to get a JavaScript 1 certification, be sure that you can handle this on top of your job as well. And thank you, Sergey and Georgii, for this opportunity.
To be honest, I didn't do any certification for a year, because when you realize how big is this gap and journey between, you know, A and SA, you really want to focus on fixing these gaps. And also, it's as Andrei mentioned, it gives you a tremendous value for your daily job. So for me, doing another extra certificate less important than really improve my level in this journey. So this is my personal view, and this is why, yeah.
With the exception maybe of
feedback, by the way, Andrei, it's useful. Thank you.
And with the exception maybe though of certificates that would really help you fix gaps. So if there's a certificate that's pretty much in an area where you have a huge gap, and tackling that certificate and the preparation process that goes in front of it will fix most of the gap, or maybe all of it, then of course it can be very valuable. But yeah, I agree that taking on too much aside from preparing for CTA will, yeah, greatly reduce your chances of passing CTA in your planned time frame.
Yeah, I think the ones that were useful for me were education, cloud consultant, and nonprofit starter pack, because you can kind of think of those as a specific industry scenario where it's like the education industry or nonprofit industry, and you can kind of understand what are the requirements, what is a sample data model, and that sort of thing. But the non-core ones like marketing cloud, Pardot, probably not as much value. And I went the opposite path and tried to go for as many certifications as possible, and I think it definitely did delay my CTA journey. I mean, in the end, I'm happy I did it, but had I gone down a different path, perhaps I would be speaking from a different perspective now.
Yeah, but you're completely crazy. Like, who does 30 certs?
Exactly.
Okay. So yep, again, thank you everyone. Thank you Lilith, thank you Sergey, thank you Kid, thank you Georgii. It's been valuable 2 hours with you guys. It's been so much enlightening, and definitely the knowledge you guys gave us, it's been valuable and insightful. We have a lot of things to on our plate to take this and grasp it and work on it. So again, thank you for valuable time. You were able to remove this time on a weekend, and we're very, very fortunate. I'm fortunate to be part of this group, and even talking to you guys. It's great. So thank you to all the audience from wherever you guys have joined. We had almost like close to 30 people in the session today, and but there been some other reasons, people who had to leave. No worries. We have slides and recording which will be shared later. And Huan makes a point that he puts it on the post and he shares all the recordings. So again, I want to gratitude to the whole group, SAIMA group, for giving me this opportunity to host the session. Thank you Lilith, thank you Meera, thank you Neha, thank you and thank you Gaurav. So thank you to everyone. Have a good day, have a good weekend, and all the best for your study preps. Keep going. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone. Have a good weekend.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for having us.